Chapter 7. Home. Adam had loved Kate like a daughter. He had seen her quiet devastation after River left for Berlin, after he had spiraled into his addiction. To be accused of ruining Kate's life, squandering the love they shared, on top of his own spiraling self destruction, had been unbearable. He had been kicked out, sent away, his duffel bag thrown onto the street after him. He had spent weeks living on the streets, lost, cold, utterly alone, the echo of Adam's words a constant torment. River listened, the silence between them thick, heavy with the weight of shared history and newly revealed vulnerability. Adam's apology, though years late, was a profound gift. It didn't erase the past, but it softened the edges of the jagged memories, offering a glimmer of understanding, a chance for a different kind of healing. The gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway measured the quiet rhythm of Vera's decline. River had been in Belgium for 3 days now, and the full, crushing reality of his adoptive mother's illness was settling over him like a shroud. She was rarely out of bed, her once vibrant energy replaced by a profound weakness that seemed to sap the very life from her. He sat by her bedside, holding her frail hand, the skin thin and papery beneath his. Her eyes, usually sparkling with wit and warmth, were now clouded with fatigue, often half closed. The room was dim, the curtains drawn against the bright winter light, creating a hushed sanctuary. The scent of lavender and something vaguely medicinal hung in the air. "River, darling," she murmured, her voice a thin whisper, barely audible. She stirred, a faint smile touching her lips as she looked at him. "You came. I knew you would." "Of course I came, Mom," he whispered back, his voice thick with emotion, fighting against the lump in his throat. He gently stroked her hand, trying to convey all the love, all the regret for not realizing how truly sick she was. He was a medical intern, he should have known. He should have seen the subtle signs in her voice, in her infrequent video calls. But he had been too self-absorbed, too caught in his own misery. Adam was exhausted, River could see. He had been doing everything, cooking, cleaning, providing all of Vera's care. River immediately began to shoulder the burden. He moved quietly through the house, preparing soft foods, administering medication, and changing linens. His medical training, usually a source of detached professionalism, now became a raw, intimate experience. He measured her vital signs, checked her skin for bed sores, and monitored her pain levels. Each act was a reminder of the inevitable, a quiet countdown to the moment he dreaded most, being truly alone. He tried to engage her in conversation, to distract her, to bring some light into the room. He told her about his progress in medical school, carefully omitting the parts about flunking out and having to fight his way back. He spoke of his music, the anonymous joy it brought him, the unexpected success. Though he couldn't tell her about Elias Vance or Marcus Thorne, he kept it light, carefully constructed narrative of his life that omitted the dark, messy truths. Vera listened, her eyes often closed, a faint smile on her lips. She would offer a soft "It's lovely, dear," or "I'm so proud." Sometimes she would drift off mid-sentence, her breathing shallow, leaving River, sitting in the quiet, clutching her hand, the silence amplifying his fear. One afternoon he was carefully spoon-feeding her a thin broth, her strength so diminished she could barely hold the spoon herself. A little broth dribbled down her chin. He wiped it gently with a napkin. "You're a good boy, River," she whispered, her eyes fluttering open, focusing on him with surprising clarity. "So good. You're going to be a wonderful doctor." "I hope so, Mom," he replied, his voice barely a murmur. "You are," she insisted, her grip on his hand surprisingly firm for a moment. "You have such a kind heart. Don't ever forget that. Don't let anyone dim that light." Her gaze held a profound understanding, a quiet acknowledgement of the darkness he carried, the people who had tried to dim his light. He knew she wasn't just talking about his medical future, but about his soul. He spent hours simply watching her sleep, listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing, the physical aches from his own body, the emotional turmoil of the Lakin and Ralph betrayal, the anxiety of his future. All of it faded into the background. All that mattered was this quiet, fragile presence. The woman who had given him a family, a home, a chance at a life, and the terrifying knowledge that he was losing her. Days bled into weeks, each one a quiet testament to Vera's steady decline and River's unwavering presence. He had fully embraced the role of caregiver, his life settling into a new rhythm dictated by Vera's needs. His medical knowledge, usually applied in a sterile hospital setting, now found a raw, intimate purpose in his parents' home. He learned the nuances of her pain, the subtle shifts in her breathing, the gentle way she preferred her pillows fluffed. He administered her medications with practiced ease, meticulously monitored her food intake, and spoke with her hospice nurse daily, absorbing every piece of advice, every grim prognosis. It was grueling work, physically and emotionally. His own body ached from interrupted sleep and constant vigilance. The residual tremors from his past addiction, usually subtle, sometimes resurfaced in moments of intense stress, a cruel reminder of how fragile his own recovery still was. Yet, despite the exhaustion, River found a profound sense of purpose, quiet solace in the tangible acts of care. He was giving back to the people who had given him everything. In these moments, stripped of his masks, both the velvet mask and the aspiring doctor, he felt simply River, a son caring for his ailing mother. This unvarnished reality was a strange kind of peace. Adam, ever the quiet pillar of strength, worked tirelessly by his side. They communicated mostly through shared tasks and unspoken understanding. Adam would handle the grocery runs, the housework, the heavier lifting. River would manage Vera's personal care or medication schedule, the complex interactions with the hospice team. In the evenings, they would sit together in the quiet living room, the only sounds the ticking grandfather clock and the soft crackle of the fireplace. They would share a silent meal, sometimes a cup of tea, the comfortable silence between them now filled with a shared burden, a quiet love that transcended words. One evening, as River was preparing Vera's evening medications, Adam came into the kitchen, a mug of steaming tea in his hands. "You're a natural at this, son," he said, his voice low. "Like you were born to it." River managed a tired smile, measuring a liquid dose. "Just doing what needs to be done, Dad." He thought of the long road ahead, the medical boards, the residency. He wondered if this experience, this intimate dance with illness and mortality, would shape him into a better doctor or simply break him. "Vera always said you had the kindest hands," Adam mused, stirring his tea. "Gentle but firm, in your heart. She always knew you had a good heart, no matter what." His gaze held a flicker of regret, a silent acknowledgement of his past harsh words about River's perceived ruination. River simply nodded, a silent acceptance of the unspoken apology, the years of blame slowly dissolving in the quiet warmth of shared grief. He found unexpected moments of solace, sitting by Vera's bedside as the morning light streamed through the window, reading to her from her favorite poetry books. The gentle pressure of her hand in his as she drifted off to sleep, the faint, sweet smell of her hair. These were moments of pure connection, untainted by the chaos of his past or the anxieties of his future. He would sometimes pull out his songwriting notebook in the middle of the night, when the house was completely silent, and jot down fragmented lyrics, soft melodies, meditations on love and loss, on the fragile beauty of life. He knew these songs would be different from the raw, angry blues of the Velvet Mask. These would be quieter, deeper. But even in this haven, the world outside occasionally intruded. His phone would buzz with emails from Elias Vance's office, updates on the Velvet Mask's soaring popularity, demands for new material, hints of Marcus Thorne's growing impatience for a larger reveal. Each notification was a sharp reminder of the life he had put on hold, the fame that was swelling in his absence, the very thing that still had the power to expose him, to unravel everything. He would mute the notifications, push them away, telling himself there was only one thing that mattered now, his mother. The piercing, insistent ring of River's cell phone shattered the fragile peace of the quiet afternoon. He was in the living room, meticulously folding laundry, a task he'd taken over from Adam to ease his father's burden. Vera was sleeping soundly, a faint, rhythmic breathing emanating from her bedroom. He saw the caller ID, an unknown California number. He almost let it go to voicemail, preferring to avoid any contact from his previous life, but something old and instinctive twisted in his gut. He answered before reason could stop him. "River? Is that really you?" The voice on the other end was bright, saccharine, but with an unmistakable edge of malice he knew all too well. "Ireland." River's grip tightened on the phone, his knuckles turning white. He swallowed, the familiar knot forming in his stomach. "Ireland, what do you want?" His voice was flat, devoid of warmth. "Oh, just checking in on my favorite reclusive doctor," she chirped, a mocking laugh echoing in the line. "Lakin was just beside herself after you abandoned her in your Christmas dinner." "Really, River, running away again?" So dramatic. Her tone dripped with condescension, hitting all his familiar pressure points. "I didn't abandon anyone. I left a marriage that was over," River retorted, his voice tight. "And I'm here because my mother is terminally ill. So if you have nothing constructive to say, I'm hanging up." You always were so dramatic about death, weren't you? You make everything about your pain. Ireland drawled, a faint sympathy in her voice that was worse than outright cruelty. Yes, Lakin mentioned. Such a shame. Though, honestly, you should have seen her face when you just walked out. Priceless. Ralph, too. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. She paused, letting the implication hang in the air. But don't worry your pretty little head about them. They're doing just fine. River felt a cold dread creep up his spine. What are you talking about? Ireland's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, laced with a malicious glee. Oh, you know, Ralph's been staying at the apartment, helping Lakin with everything. And it seems they've become very close, very cozy. You wouldn't believe how quickly they've moved in together, actually. He's practically living there now. And Lakin seems, I'm quite happy. In fact, she said to tell you her needs are being very well met. River's blood ran cold. The image of Lakin and Ralph on his kitchen counter, the casual cruelty of their betrayal, surged to the forefront of his mind. He had convinced himself he didn't care, that it was merely a confirmation of his detachment from Lakin. But hearing Ireland confirm their continued public proximity, their blatant disregard for him, especially Ralph, his biological brother, sent a fresh wave of disgust through him. It wasn't about jealousy, it was about the profound disrespect, the casual violation of his home, of his remaining dignity. I don't care, Ireland, Rivers said, his voice flat, but the tremor in his hands was undeniable. What Lakin and Ralph do is of no concern to me. I filed for divorce. They can have each other and my countertops. The last words were a bitter internal sting. Ireland's laugh was sharp, triumphant. Oh, you say that. But you know it bothers you. It's so messy, River. So terribly messy. But Lakin's fine. She's got someone who appreciates her now. Someone who's present. The dig about his absence, his perceived failings as a husband, was a familiar arrow from her quiver. Anyway, just thought you'd like the update. Enjoy your little family drama there. Ta-ta. She hung up before he could reply, leaving him clutching the phone, the echoes of her cruel words reverberating in the quiet living room. River slowly lowered the phone, his mind a whirlwind of disgust and a renewed sense of unworthiness. The thought of Lakin and Ralph together in his apartment, desecrating his space, was a fresh wound. It was a cold, hard reminder that even when he tried to escape, the tentacles of his past, the people who sought to diminish him, still found a way to reach out and inflict pain. He closed his eyes, pressing the heels of his hands against them, but some echoes didn't fade. They just made themselves at home. River sat by Vera's bedside, the phone cold in his hand, the residual anger and disgust from Ireland's call still simmering beneath his skin. He recounted the conversation to Adam, his voice low, clipped, while his father listened, his face a mask of quiet disapproval. River couldn't bring himself to tell Vera about the call, not directly. He didn't want to burden her with the sordid details, not when her strength was so fragile. But Vera, with her uncanny ability to sense the unspoken, knew. Later that evening, as River was adjusting her pillows, her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, her gaze clear and knowing. River, darling, she murmured, her voice weak but firm. I know about the call. Your father told me what he gathered. I'm sorry that wretched woman bothered you. And about Lakin and that boy. It's disgusting. River's jaw tightened. It doesn't matter, Mom. It's over. I filed for divorce. Vera sighed, a soft, weary sound. I know. And I'm glad, dear, she was never right for you. But what about your future, River? Your studies? Your boards? Her brow furrowed with concern, a worry for his future shining through her pain. You've worked so hard. All those years you fought to get back. You can't let any of this derail you again. River knelt by her bed, taking her hand. Mom, please. That's not important right now. You are. I must be here with you. I can take my boards another time. There will be other dates, other residencies. The thought of leaving her now, of returning to the chaotic battlefield of Los Angeles, felt unbearable. His focus was entirely on her, on these precious, fleeting moments. The hospital, his career, his music, it all seemed distant, secondary. Vera squeezed his hand, her grip surprisingly firm. River, look at me. He met her gaze, seeing the wisdom and the gentle steel in her eyes. You came here for me, and I am so grateful. Your presence is a comfort beyond words, darling, but my time, it is short. And your life is long. You are finally on a path that is good, a path that gives you purpose. You cannot simply put that on hold. Not truly. You need to keep moving forward. For yourself. And for me. She coughed softly. a dry, racking cough that shook her frail frame. River quickly offered her a sip of water, his medical instincts kicking in. As she settled back, her eyes fixed on him. Your boards, River, they are important. They are the culmination of so much effort, so much struggle. Don't waste it. Don't let them, she subtly emphasized, referring to his biological family. And Lakin, take this from you too. You deserve to succeed. You deserve that future. Her words, gentle but firm, resonated with the deep-seated fears he carried. The fear of being derailed, of falling back into the darkness, of being a failure once again. She knew him so well, knew his vulnerability, his tendency to retreat when life became overwhelming. I can take them another time, Mom, he insisted, his voice tinged with desperation. He just wanted to stay here, in this quiet bubble of genuine love, away from the lies and the pain. It's only months. I can study here. I don't need to go back for them now. Vera sighed, a weary but resolute sound. River, you are a doctor almost. You know the importance of timing. This is the time. I need to know you are strong enough to stand on your own 2 feet, no matter what happens here. That you will live your life. That you will be happy. That is my last wish for you, my darling boy. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but her gaze was unwavering, filled with fierce protective love. Go home, River. Go take your boards. Do it for yourself. Do it for us. Her quiet insistence, the profound weight of her words, pressed down on him. He saw the truth in her eyes, the desperate need for him to secure his future, to ensure he would be okay. He wanted to argue, deny her, bury himself in her care. But he also knew that, for her, this was an act of profound love, her final unwavering push towards his own well-being. The thought of leaving her, knowing her time was short, was unbearable. But not leaving might be a betrayal of her deepest wish. The request hung heavy in the air, a silent command from the woman he loved more than life itself. Go home, River. Go take your boards. Do it for yourself. Do it for us. Vera's words resonated deep within him, a complex symphony of love, obligation, and unbearable pain. He sat by her bedside, holding her hand, tracing the faint blue veins beneath her thin skin. The thought of leaving her, knowing her time was so incredibly short, felt like a betrayal. Every instinct screamed to stay, to cling to these precious, fleeting moments, to absorb every last drop of her unconditional love before she was gone, leaving him truly, profoundly alone. Mom, he whispered, his voice hoarse, I can't. Not now. I can't leave you. His heart ached with a familiar, suffocating fear. He had run from so much in his life, but the thought of running from her death, of not being here for her last breaths, was a torment he couldn't bear. His past absences, his failures already haunted him. He couldn't add this to the list. Vera's eyes, though dim with fatigue, held a spark of her usual steel. River, my dear boy, your father and I, we have lived a long, full life, a good life. We raised you, we loved you. Our time is coming, yes, but yours is just beginning. You are meant for great things. You are meant to heal, to help. This is your calling, she coughed, a fragile, rattling sound that shook her thin frame. Don't you dare give up on that because of me, or because of them. She subtly motioned towards the distant world of Lakin and his biological family. He knew she was right. Intellectually, he understood the logic. The medical boards were a crucial hurdle, the culmination of years of struggle, a gateway to the career his adoptive father had envisioned, a path to a life he'd fought to regain. Delaying them would mean prolonged uncertainty, another period of academic limbo, another opportunity for his deep-seated unworthiness to tell him he wasn't good enough. But emotionally, he was a raw, exposed nerve. The practicalities of his future felt utterly meaningless compared to the crushing reality of losing his mother. He envisioned the hospital in Los Angeles, the sterile hallways, the demanding shifts, the constant reminders of Lakin and Ireland in his shared apartment. He pictured the stress of studying for his boards in a chaotic environment, trying to focus while his marriage dissolved and his past haunted him. He knew he could take them another time, maybe 6 months later. It would be a hassle, a setback, but he had already faced so many. What was a little more delay, a little more uncertainty compared to these final moments with Vera? I can take them another time, Mom, he repeated, his voice pleading, searching for a way out of her demand. I just need to be here. I'll study here. I'll read my textbooks by your bedside. I won't lose momentum, I promise. He was desperate to find a compromise, a way to obey her, to honor her wishes without having to leave. Vera sighed, a long, weary exhalation. River, My sweet River, you always try to carry the world on your shoulders. You always think you have to fix everything or bear everything alone, but you can't fix this. You can only be present, and then you have to live. Her eyes, though heavy, held a profound sadness mixed with an unwavering determination. I need you to live, darling. I need you to embrace your future. For me. Weight of her words pressed down on him, suffocating him with the immensity of her love and her sacrifice. He saw her pain, her weakness, and yet her will to see him succeed, to see him whole, was formidable. He was torn, caught between his desperate need to cling to her and her dying wish for him to fly. The irony was brutal. She was asking him to run from her death, to abandon her in her final moments, for his own good. He pressed her hand to his lips, as if trying to memorize its warmth, fighting the instinct to beg her to let him stay. He felt the familiar shame of being inadequate, of being unable to fulfill both his desire to stay and her need for him to go. He swallowed, the bitterness coating his tongue. He had always feared being left behind. Now the cruelest twist, she was asking him to be the one to walk away. He didn't sleep that night. He sat beside her, notebook untouched, music forgotten, just watching her breathe. The room was quiet, save for the soft whir of the oxygen concentrator beside Vera's bed. River sat on the edge of the mattress, his head bowed, his hands still clasped around hers. Vera watched him, her breathing shallow, but her gaze clear, unwavering. She knew his struggle and could feel the emotional storm raging within him. River, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. This is not easy, I know, but it is important. It is important for your soul. She paused, gathering strength. You have spent so much of your life trying to make up for things, trying to prove your worth to them. She subtly indicated the world beyond their quiet home, the world of his biological family, of Lake and of his past failures. To yourself, you carry so much guilt, my darling. River flinched, the words striking a raw nerve. His guilt, his unworthiness, the lingering shame of the accident, the addiction, the profound sense of being a burden. These were the unseen chains that had bound him for years. Your father and I, Vera continued, her voice gaining a surprising clarity. We never wanted you to carry that burden. We chose you, River. We loved you, still do. And we want you to live the life you deserve, not the one you feel obligated to, or the one you feel you must hide. Her words were a gentle echo of Adam's earlier confession, a profound validation of his worth, independent of his biological ties. I want to leave you, Mom, River whispered, his voice thick with tears. He was seeing the truth in her eyes, not just a push for his career, but a push for his peace, his freedom from the internal torment. You are not leaving me, Vera corrected, her voice gentle but firm. You're moving forward. You are choosing life, and that is what your father and I want most for you. We know you will be there when it truly matters, but this is different. This is your path. This is your future. Don't let my ending define your beginning. She looked at him with an intensity that pulled at his very core, an almost desperate plea. Please, River, do this for yourself, and do it for me. It would give me so much peace. He looked at her, truly looked at her, at the profound love shining in her eyes, at the quiet strength in her frail form. He saw not just a dying woman, but the mother who had patiently, consistently loved him back to life, piece by piece, from the broken boy he had been. She was giving him permission to live, to pursue his dreams, even as hers faded. It was an act of immense selflessness, a final beautiful gift. Okay, Mom, River finally said, the words a wrenching sacrifice, but also a profound commitment. He nodded, tears finally flowing freely down his face. Okay, I'll go. I'll take my boards. For you. For me. A faint, beautiful smile touched Vera's lips, spreading a serene peace across her face. My good boy, she whispered, her eyes closing, a contented sigh escaping her. My wonderful son. River sat there for a long time, holding her hand, watching her peaceful, shallow breaths. He knew this was the right decision, the one she needed him to make. But the weight of it, the profound, aching sorrow of leaving her, was almost unbearable. He was exchanging the immediate pain of staying for the profound pain of leaving. All for a future he wasn't sure he still deserved. But for the first time in a long time, he believed he might try. The morning of his departure was shrouded in a thin, cold Belgian mist, matching the heavy dread that clung to River. He stood in the quiet hallway of his parents' home, his duffel bag packed once more, the weight of it a tangible symbol of his unwilling journey. Adam stood beside him, silent, his gaze fixed on the front door, avoiding River's eyes. The unspoken tension between them was palpable, a familiar emotional chasm. River cleared his throat, trying to break the silence. Dad, he began, his voice rough. I, I'm going to miss you, both of you. He glanced towards Vera's closed bedroom door, a fresh wave of grief washing over him. He had spent his last few hours by her bedside, holding her hand, whispering promises, absorbing every last moment. She was sleeping now, a fragile, shallow breathing. Adam finally turned, his eyes, usually so steady, clouded with a profound sadness. He placed a hand on River's shoulder, a firm, grounding pressure. We'll miss you too, son, terribly. But Vera, she needs you to do this. For her. She needs to know you'll be all right. She needs to know you'll live your life. His voice was low, a rare vulnerability. I'm sorry for everything, River. All the things I said. All the times I wasn't there for you. I know I was hard on you. He looked away, his jaw tight. I didn't understand. I saw you throwing away your life, and I blamed you. For Kate's pain, too. Shouldn't have. River felt a knot in his throat. Adam, apologizing again. It was a profound, wrenching act of love from a man who rarely spoke of emotions. It's okay, Dad, River whispered, his own eyes burning with unshed tears. I understand. I really do. He thought of his own pain, his own blame, his own inability to forgive himself. Adam nodded, accepting the unspoken forgiveness. Just call us as often as you can, and be careful. That city, that life you have there, it's complicated. His gaze held a warning, a silent acknowledgement of Lakin, of his biological family, of the lurking threats to River's anonymous musical identity. River took a deep breath, trying to control the tremor in his voice. I will, and I'll come back as soon as I can. After the boards, I promise. He didn't know if it was a promise he could keep, given Vera's prognosis, but he needed to say it, for Adam, for himself. He gave Adam a firm, quick hug, a rare moment of overt affection between them. Take care of Mom, and yourself. Adam nodded, his eyes glistening. You too, son. Make us proud. River picked up his duffel bag, the weight of it a familiar burden now. He glanced one last time at Vera's bedroom door, a silent farewell to the woman who was his anchor, his source of unconditional love. He was leaving her, perhaps for the last time, to pursue a future she so desperately wanted for him. He walked out the front door, closing it softly behind him, the quiet click echoing the finality of his departure. The mist had lifted, replaced by a pale, wintry sun. He hailed a taxi, the cold air biting his exposed skin. As the car pulled away, he looked back at the house, a haven of genuine love he was willingly leaving. He was running again, yes, running from loss, running towards an uncertain future. But this time he was running with a promise, a burden of love that might, just might, make him feel worthy enough to face whatever came next. He was headed back to California, back to the battleground of his life, but armed with a new resolve, forged in the quiet sorrow of a Belgian Christmas. The plane touched down in Los Angeles with a jarring thud, a rude awakening from the sterile suspended reality of transatlantic flight. River felt the familiar weight of California air, humid and thick with exhaust, immediately pressing in on him. He hadn't even reached the baggage claim when his phone buzzed in his hand, a raw, insistent vibration. His heart seized. He knew. He answered, his voice a barely audible rasp. Dad? Adam's voice was hoarse, broken, a sound River had rarely, if ever, heard from his stoic adoptive father. She's gone, River. Your mother, Vera. She passed this morning, 2 hours after you left. The words were a dull blow, precise and devastating. River leaned against a cold pillar in the deserted terminal, the sounds of distant announcements and rolling luggage fading into a muffled roar. He closed his eyes, pressing the phone to his ear, trying to breathe past the sudden, suffocating constriction in his chest. 2 hours. He had left her, followed her wish, flown across a continent, only to be too late. The profound guilt he always carried, the fundamental unworthiness that gnawed at him, surged with renewed ferocity. He had failed her too. I'm so sorry, son, Adam continued, his voice heavy with his own grief. She waited. She held on. I think she just needed to know you were safe, that you were going to do what you needed to do. She left peacefully. She was ready. Ready. River wasn't. He wanted to scream, rage at injustice, at the cruelty of fate. He wanted to rewind time to stay by her side, to have those last precious moments, but all he could manage was a choked whisper. I'm coming, Dad. I'll get the first flight back. No, Adam said, his voice regaining a fraction of its usual firmness. No, River. She didn't want that. She made me promise she wanted you to take your boards. She wanted you to live your life. You made her a promise, son. Don't break it. The words were a fresh stab, a painful reminder of the burden he now carried. Vera's last wish. His promise. He was bound by it, even in his grief. Okay, Dad, he said, the word of bitter taste. Okay, I'll call you as soon as I can. I love you. I love you too, son, Adam replied, his voice breaking again before he hung up. River stood there, phone still in hand, the silence of the terminal pressing in on him. He was back in the States, back in the sprawling, indifferent landscape of Los Angeles, and the anchor of his life, the woman who had filled his world with unconditional love, was gone. The world felt colder, emptier, utterly desolate. He was adrift. The days that followed Vera's death were a blur of grief and grim determination. River moved through them like a ghost, his body present, but his mind a constant replay of Adam's shattered voice, Vera's final unwavering gaze, and the profound emptiness in his own chest. He went to his apartment, the site of Lakin's carefully maintained order, now a jarring reminder of chaos he'd fled. He felt obligated to tell Lakin, and she reacted to the news with a superficial sympathy, her "Oh, River, I'm so terribly sorry," ringing hollow, a perfunctory performance that only intensified his detachment. She barely mentioned Ralph. He buried himself in his medical studies, a desperate attempt to fulfill Vera's last wish, to honor the promise he had made. He spent every waking hour in the sterile confines of the hospital library, devouring textbooks, reviewing charts, forcing his mind to absorb complex medical information while his heart screamed in protest. He skipped meals, ignored sleep driven by a raw, relentless need to prove himself, to avoid any further failures. The impending medical boards became a crucible, a trial by fire he had to pass for Vera. His nights were filled with fragmented sleep, punctuated by fresh waves of grief and the familiar, tormenting nightmares that intensified with his emotional exhaustion. He saw Vera's face, pale and serene, then it morphed into the mangled metal of the truck from the accident. The accusing glare of Regan, the leering face of Ralph. He woke in a cold sweat, clutching the sheets, the pain in his chest a physical ache. He couldn't bring himself to talk to Adam beyond brief, necessary updates. The thought of hearing his father's grief, of confronting the reality of Vera's absence, was too much. He knew Adam was grieving in his own quiet way, processing the loss of his lifelong partner. River was consumed by his own.